So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a lot about downtowns because right now, Kanab does not get the money out of the visitors that come through here like you should. So everything we're going to talk about today is not necessarily bringing in more visitors, although we'd certainly like to do it to spread them out over more of the year. But this is how do you get them to spend more money. So this is navigating the rivers of change, the 20 ingredients of an outstanding downtown, and we're going to dig right into it. And how many of you remember Petula Clark, 1964, when she sang the song Downtown? How many of you remember that? Okay? You just dated yourselves. But remember, when you're downtown, lights are much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles, forget all your cares. So go downtown. It's a great place when you're downtown. No finer place for sure. I mean, everything's waiting for you. What happened? You know what happened? After World War II, before World War II, people lived in downtown. And then just right around then and there, I mean, how many of you seen It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart? And they created, Bailey Park. That was one of the first suburbs. That was in 1947. And so what happened is people started moving from downtown out to the suburbs. When people started moving to the suburbs, the retailers created suburban malls. And the retailers left downtowns. And you know what happened is, in between with the suburbs and downtowns, we started creating the bane of the United States, strip malls. And then what happened is, downtowns began to die because the Woolworths left, the JCPenney's left. And for most of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, downtowns were dying. But a brand new trend, and look at this fact, more than twice as many vacancies in downtown. And I got to tell you, over the last week, we've been here since, in the area, in Utah, I should say, since Sunday evening. And we went into Castledale, and we went into Huntington, and we were in Green River, and while we're in Kanab, and we passed through many towns coming here, this is what we saw. And right now, I got to tell you, you come into Kanab and you see signs that say, "Welcome to Kanab," and what you see after them are vacant, boarded up buildings. And so there's a new trend taking across America. We're a baby country, but you know what? For the first time, we want out of our cars in a pedestrian experience. This is in, I think this is in Florence, Italy. And when I took this, what I found out is that in Ireland, in Italy, in Spain, in most of Western Europe and Scandinavia, people are out of their cars and they want the pedestrian experience. It has changed everything. We want central gathering places. We want places that are alive with music. This is Santa Monica's 3rd Street Promenade. And so, even though I came from the travel industry, I had to figure out, we got to get into this downtown thing, and here's why. And I call this the 7 rivers of change facts. And here's fact number 1. Downtowns equal visitor space. Look at this. The number 1 activity of visitors in the world is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting. We're not coming here for Kanab's downtown. We're coming here, we might be coming here for Zion, we might come in here for Best Friends, we might be coming here for Coral Sands, we might come in here for Bryce Canyon, we might be for Vermilion Cliffs, Grand Canyon, you name it. But this is where we spend most of our money. As a matter of fact, that is where 80%, let me go back, that is where 80% of non-lodging visitor spending takes place, and you're not getting most of it. 80%. You know what? When we're out at Coral Sands, even when we're at Best Friends, even when we're out here doing all this recreation, we're not spending money. We spend it at the end of the day. Are you open? 80%. So that's, one more time, number 1 activity in the world, shopping, dining, entertainment, pedestrian-friendly setting. And that is what people want. We want the pedestrian friendly. Why do you think Disney put downtown Disney outside each of its parks? To get that 80%. That's fact number 1. Number 2, it is the front door to your non-tourism economic developments. Even though I'm from the tourism industry, Vicki, their state tourism director, is from tourism. You know, we both realize that tourism shouldn't be your only economic driver. But anybody that's going to come here to Kanab, whether it's to do factories, manufacturing, I don't care what it is, they're coming here first as what? A visitor. Site selectors, this is the place my client would want to live. If I'm a business, this is the place I want to live. My employees would want to live. Can I make money here? What's it like? What are the schools like? It is the front door to your non-tourism economic development. And then there it is. And you know what site selectors do? They will drive into your downtown, and the health of your downtown economically, they see is the health of the community. Is it fair? Not always, but that's what they do. You know, so downtowns and tourism must be joined at the hip. And that's really important. And then fact number 3, the heart and soul of any community, besides its people, is its downtown. And by the way, if you don't hang out in downtown Kanab, neither will visitors. If you say, well, we're heading to Price, or we're heading somewhere else, guess what? That's where they're going to go. So this is about locals first. So everything we're going to talk about today is about you first, and visitors will follow wherever you go. You know, so wherever you have your downtown brought to life with entertainment, with sidewalk cafes, you name it, public markets, those kinds of things, visitors will follow because you're there. And then number 4, downtowns are back and in a huge, big way. As a matter of fact, the last suburban mall in the United States was built 24 years ago. They are dying. People want downtowns more than ever before. As a matter of fact, I don't know whether this is good or not, but even Walmart is starting to move into downtowns. What does that tell you? So, here's why downtowns are back. We are in the age of third places. The first place is the place we live, it's our home. The second place is the place we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. Starbucks built an entire brand around creating third places. An entire brand. Free Wi-Fi, gather place. You can sit there, buy a cup of expensive coffee and sit there all day long. You know, and it works. And we want that. And by the way, it doesn't mean you have to have Starbucks in the middle of Kanab. But those kinds of places. And then the next fact, number 5, is the future of downtowns is where we go after work and on weekends. And I'm going to show you that. That is the future of downtowns. You know, I mean, it's the sidewalk cafes, it's those things. Even public markets are moving into the evening hours. And look at that saying right there. There is nothing more important in Kanab than its downtown. You have a downtown, you should be one of the biggest draws as a small city in the United States. Because not only do you have Utah's Mighty 5, which is the best tourism campaign in the United States, and I'm not saying because Vicky's sitting right here. Yeah, I really honestly feel it. Matter of fact, I gotta tell you, I'm from Seattle. I now live in Phoenix. We saw an ad on TV for the Mighty 5 for my wife and I made a special trip to see 3 of those 5. We stayed in Richfield one night. We stayed in Page the next night. We ate lunch in Kanab. So I'm going to tell you how to get people like me to actually stop and spend more time. Now that's before we're working with Utah. But here's the point. Look at that. Nothing is more important. That's why we're going to concentrate on this. And then, by the way, if you think that beautification of facade improvements are going to fix the downtown, wrong. I mean, it's what's in the buildings that makes you go. I was just in this town up in Alberta 2 weeks ago, or was it last week? I can't even remember anymore. And they spent $8.5 million making their downtown pretty. And we're still dead as a doornail. We can make downtown Kanab absolutely beautiful. But you know what? Would you go to Carnegie Hall with all the frescoes, the beautiful draperies, the chandeliers, everything? Would you go there no matter how beautiful it is if nothing was happening on the stage? That's what you have to fix in Kanab. And so finally, because we came from tourism, when we found out that people want downtowns, we had to go do homework. So what we did is we surveyed 2,000 cities and towns as small as 500 people, like Oakland, Arizona, all the way up to districts. And out of those, we found the 400 most successful downtowns, and most of them were small, in the United States and Canada. And we found the 20 most common ingredients. Not all of them had all 20, but we found the 20 most common ingredients. And then we had to figure out what are they. And I'm going to share them with you, and I'm going to go through them pretty quick. But if you want to take notes, you can. If not, we're going to provide handouts for you. But I'd like you to check off mentally. Oh, we got that one. We don't have that one. We need to work on that one. And you can do some amazing things. And by the way, one thing I want to say is, when I was here a couple years ago, Kanab is already greatly improved. I mean, your hotels are being redeveloped. Your downtown, I go, this isn't the same Kanab I was in just 2 years ago. So congratulations, you're already heading in the right direction. Now, here we go. I'm going to break this into 3 lists. One that the property owner should be charged with, one that the public sector, the city and the town will be charged with, and then the third one are things that merchants need to do. And by the way, they all work together, but just who takes the lead. So here they are, the 20 ingredients. Number 1 is nearly all of them began with a plan. And you and Kanab are already building this plan. What is it we want to be known for? Branding? Where's the product that backs it up? And how do we tell the world action plan? The days of strategic plans are pretty much over. Sorry. We want a to-do list. Strategies, goals, and gestures should only take a few pages. And by the way, if you need help, you can have people come in and do secret shopping. We've done a gazillion of these where we go in and secret shop. Like for instance today, as soon as we drove in, I said, welcome to Kanab, and I see boarded up building, I said, that sign shouldn't be there. It should be somewhere else. Or it should say, downtown Kanab, I had 1 mile. What that says is, don't judge us yet. You got a mile to go. So do that. We go through a list of 65 different things, and we're going to send you that list so you can check mark how you're doing on them. And so, there you go. An action plan, and by the way, you're already developing this. Matt's taking the lead on this. What's the recommendation? Who's charged with it? By the way, it takes a village. There's roles for the school district. There's roles for Kiwanis and Rotary, not just the city. There's for UDOT, for you name it. Everybody's got to be at the table. And this is what makes an action plan. So, you know what's cool about doing this? Once you have your brand nailed, and by the way, it's going to be nailed today because it's been festering for years. We need to get on the downtown. Right? We need product development. You know what? Product sells itself. So when you do this, when you create an action plan, you go from this. I call that the Economic Development Express. Really clipping along, isn't it? You will go from that to this. And that's what this is about. Number 2 is they define a strong brand and a retail focus, even in your downtown. And so I'm going to just show you a couple because I think these are going to apply to you. This is one we did in Squamish, British Columbia, which mirrors Kanab in many ways. The difference is they get about 80 inches of rain a year. You know, I mean, it's very green and it's just over the border, just north between Vancouver, BC and Whistler Resort. And so what we did for them is we created this, My Squamish Adventure. But they had their whole thing, and it was about really being a mountain sports capital. And so everything they did played up the people there, like this, you know, My Squamish Adventure is another one. And it actually told about the people there, what they do, their recreation. And by the way, this is geared to millennials, just like your marketing should. You know, there's one thing, and by the way, if you cater to the millennials, us boomers are going to follow you. Because you know what? You know, as an outsider, we see St. George's retirement. We don't see Kanab's retirement. We see you as young, vibrant, mountain, sporting, you know, healthy, that kind of thing. And I hope you embrace that. That's just how we see it as outsiders. I don't know whether it's true or not, but geared to millennials. So I just wanted to show you what they did. You know, and what they did is they took Christy, she's age 29 again. She won't tell us her real age. And then, you know, why, you know, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but she actually put her whole day's itinerary up there. What she would do every day. You know, things like this. This is just one idea. So sometimes brands aren't about logos and slogans. They're about the feeling we have of you. And so while you've got these national parks around you and amazing state parks, monuments, you name it, wouldn't the goal be to make Kanab the destination? So this is some of the things they did. My Squamish Adventure. My Squamish Adventure. That's actually a picture of Jordan right there. We made this one up. That's not Jordan right there. You didn't want me to confess about that, did you? Yeah, thanks, yeah. Okay, so, this is my business adventure. See what I mean? So when you have your branding, it goes for tourism, it goes for economic development, it goes for community development. One brand, one message. And so this was another one, and what he did, he's from Australia, and what he does is graphic design. I mean, we went through his whole day, what he does, and why he started business there. So this is all the art of branding that we're going through, and so that you're in the middle of. Even mountain bike, notice how there's a look and feel to everything, and that's what branding is about. It's about the consistency of these. They even want to create these signs along the highway coming into Squamish. And we think stuff like this would be fantastic in Kanab. If we can get UDOT to go, let's do it. But that would be really cool. And so even their wayfind, notice everything fits the theme. And that is how you do branding. The other one I'm going to start with, and I'm going to finish with it, is Jackson, Wyoming. How many of you have ever been to Jackson, Wyoming? Jackson Hole. Most of you. And by the way, this Jackson, people know it's Jackson Hole, which is actually the ski area. Population is 12,000 in the whole area. So they don't have other towns nearby. Claim to fame, Grand Teton National Park. It was a gateway. And by the way, the last thing you want to be in Kanab is a gateway. A gateway is something you pass through to go somewhere else. We want you to be the destination. And that's what they were. It was just that gateway. So they called me up a long time ago and said, can you come and help us with our downtown? Because in their downtown, they have this little, it's called Washington Square right there, and we want to turn it into a plaza, which they still haven't done. And our job was to re-orchestrate the business mix around there because we had H&R Block, we had insurance agencies, we had a pregnancy clinic, a laundromat, a couple of galleries. I mean, it was a hodgepodge. You would never find that in a mall, would you? So we had to orchestrate all the way around there, all 4 blocks. And then gradually do it the next set of blocks. And so I went there and said, what do you want to be known for? And they said, Western. I said, well, Tombstone just went bankrupt. I mean, how many Western towns can we have in the Western United States? And by the way, I've worked in Oklahoma where they think they're Western. And so in Kansas, and I mean, almost everybody was claiming. I said, how's that working for you? And they said, that's why you're here. And so, yes, they did that. There's their park in the middle of town. People call it Antler Park. And so this was their metamorphosis of how to do this. And they said, we have something for everyone. That's what everybody thinks. Have you ever gone anywhere because they had something for everyone? No, you go where there's something for us. So then they said, okay, we're the gateway. And of course, I gave them the line about gateways being something you pass through. Then they said outdoor recreational paradise. By the way, those first 2 words are the most overused words in the world. Outdoor recreation. Name a place in Utah that doesn't have it, including Salt Lake City. And then an arts committee, performing visual. We have the oldest playhouse in Wyoming. I said, well, so tell me about the playhouse. He says, well, they do 2 productions a year, and each one does 2 weekends. I said, so what about the other 350 days of the year? I said, we didn't narrow it down. And so they finally said, well, maybe we should be known for visual arts instead of performing visual. And I said, what do you mean, like galleries, artists in action? What kind of visual arts? And they go, quit doing this to us. I wanted to narrow their focus. And they finally decided to become the home of Western art. We'll come back to it. But here's the bottom line. There are 245 cities and towns in Utah. What sets you apart from the other 244, excuse me, I can't read. What sets you apart? Why Kanab? That's what you have to do. And so, that's number 2. Number 3, critical mass. And this is the most important. By the way, when you see 5 stars, that means all 400 towns had that. So every single one had this. And this is like businesses grouped together. And here's what you need to orchestrate in Kanab. Is number 1, this is the 10-10-10 rule. In 3 lineal blocks. It could be a block this way, this way, this way. It could be the curve, where you have on Main, which I believe is the highway. It doesn't have to be in a straight line, but not square blocks. This is the minimum you need to have, and if you do this, you will be a draw. Wouldn't it be cool if Kanab was the draw? And they said, while we're there, we're going to go visit Zion. Because, Zion National Park, excuse me. And so, because, you know what? That's exactly what we did in both Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and Jacksonville, Wyoming. And I'm going to tell you that at the end. Here's what you need. In 3 linear blocks, at least 10 places that sell food. So don't, in your minds, you're thinking of all the downtown. No, pick a section 3 blocks long. And you're probably pretty close to this one. And then you need 3 destination retail shops. You know, antiques are fine, but not secondhand stores. And so you'll find these. And you may be saying, well, gee, Roger, I think we got pretty much close to that, right? Well, here's the third one. At least, out of these 20, at least 10 of them open after 6 o'clock. By the way, people spend the night where there's things to do after 6 o'clock. Okay? You got to think of downtown as a mall. And you know what? They have consistent hours and days. And you know, they're open late into the evening hours. I mean, they have light businesses grouped together. I mean, they have anchor tenants, the business that we'll drive out of our way for. Like these, you know, a central gathering place. You know, think about it. Antique malls, they do 10 times the business when they're all grouped together. They're all competitors, all those booths in an antique mall. I mean, think of automobiles. Why does Chevrolet want to be right next to Ford, Toyota, and Subaru? Because they do 7 times the business when they're together. And then think about that. The days of corner gas stations and fast food restaurants and even food courts and malls. That's all called clustering. And sometimes you orchestrate the effort. And I was hired to do that in Jackson, Wyoming. I don't do it anymore. But I'm going to show you what we did and how it worked. And so that's number 3. You've got to do that. And then number 4, you need those anchor tenants. That one thing downtown that next time I come through, I won't stay in Richfield and I won't stay in Pace because you have something so great in this downtown that I got to stay in Kanab. That's the anchor tenant. I mean, there it is. Where's that one restaurant or that one shop or that character that we read about? You know, think about that. I mean, I got a question for you. How many of you would go to Orlando if Disney World was not there? Raise your hands. You're a mean bunch. No one raised their hands. You just insulted 171 other attractions. But guess what? Disney's the anchor tenant. And while we're there, we're going to do Universal Studios, we're going to do SeaWorld, we're going to do Wild Kingdom, we're going to go do a lot of other attractions, and Disney's glad they're there. So who's your anchor tenant? And by the way, I'm not suggesting you be Disneyland. So that's number 4. Number 5, property owners need to put in their lease agreements the hours and days their businesses will go. You know what? If you have a business in a mall, it will say you open at 10 o'clock. If you're not open by 10:05, it's $1,000 for every 5 minutes you open late. Your property owners need to do this. And here's why. Look at that. 70% of all retail consumer spending takes place after 6 p.m. 70%. 70%. Okay, well here, I want to make sure everybody can read this. 70% of all consumer, you know what? If you want to beat Amazon.com, maybe you should be open. And this is not just visitors, this is locals. Like Europe, we're moving, we're eating later at night, we're shopping later at night, we're at work during the day. We get off work and you're closed. As a visitor, we're out there in all this incredible stuff you have within 90 minutes of you. Probably the best collection of natural wonders in the world. Within 90 minutes of you. We come back and you're closed. Except for a few restaurants. You've got to fix that. Even public markets are moving in later hours. So let me give you an example. This is Sparks, Nevada. They had a farmer's market every Thursday from 10 to 2. Average attendance was 500 people. Then they moved it from 10 to 2 to 11 to 7, and their attendance grew to 1,000. It now operates every Thursday from 11 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. They've added entertainment to it to really make it a cool event. And the average attendance every Thursday is 10,000.
My goodness.
Even public markets and farmers markets are moving to the evening hours. Number 6, people living and staying downtowns. You know what? People love living in your downtowns, particularly if you have, I don't know how many second-story properties you have, but this is really important now. We want to be where there's the hub of activity. And so that's number 7. And then number 8, I'm going to have to go through, or number 7 here, I can't keep track. Pioneers with patient money. And you know, and God rest his soul, you lost one of those. That started redeveloping some of your older hotels. But that's what it takes to make it work. You know, it's these kinds of people. This is the little town of El Dorado, Arkansas, the southern part of Arkansas, which was an oil town. Richard and Vertus Mason, a couple went in, they bought up most of downtown, they beautified it. They even went out and selected the tenants they wanted in downtown. They orchestrated the business mix. They did all the sidewalks, all the lighting, all the beautification to help their merchants, their tenants succeed. And they turned this into one of the best downtowns in the United States. It's won Main Street USA's downtown of the year on 2 occasions. I mean, it's amazing what they did. By the way, I took these on a Sunday morning. You're going, where's the people then? And that's why. So I went down there early and I just took a picture because it was so beautiful. And before this, it was dead. And Sunday morning, it was pretty quiet. And so it just changed everything. So number 7 was patient money. Number 8, they started with 1 block. So you know what? I don't expect you to go from your gateway here to the gateway down to the south or east end. I can't, keep my direction straight. Start in your core area, take 1 block, and you got a couple of blocks that are pretty good already. And make that a showcase, and then let it spread organically. And that works. And we did this in Sisters, Oregon, a town of 1,100 people in the middle of the Cascade Mountains. We took 1 block and we helped them orchestrate the business mix, the facade improvements, and then it just started expanding. You know what? Before they did this, they had a highway just like you have, just like 89. And it's right through from Salem over to Bend, Oregon. And you know what? They had 1 in 1,100 cars would stop. You know what it is now? 1 in 30. Their retail sales went up 400% by orchestrating the business mix in 1 block. And it worked. And now it's going down the side streets and down other streets. The whole town has just come alive. And so that's how it works. So all these I just went through, this little list right here, these are all driven. And by the way, this brand development property actually doesn't have to be done by your property owners, but they need to be at the table. And so all of these things, the property owners should be taking the lead on. So there you go. Our next group is this, what the city should be charged with doing, or community. Solving the parking dilemma. Do you have 2-hour parking in downtown Kanab? No? Good. Because that is a problem we see everywhere. The average person in a vibrant downtown will spend 4 hours. Just go to Park City. Matter of fact, Park City was one of our 400. And so we want 4 hours. And if you don't have that, then great. So I just kind of skip over there. But I've been in town after town where they say, well, we cannot get our merchants to park somewhere else. We're going to punish our customers instead. So make sure that doesn't happen. And so that's what you need to do. If down the road you decide on 2-hour parking, tell us where we can find the all-day parking. And by the way, angled-in parking increases retail sales. How many of you go, oh, good, parallel parking? Yeah, nobody. That's why they're teaching. That's why they're programming cars to park themselves. So angled-in parking increases retail sales. And then number 10, the big kahuna, public restrooms. Nothing is more important than public restrooms. I mean, don't you just, look at that. That's my kind of town. Okay, we made that one up. But you can do what they did. This is in London, and we were working in a town of Sulphur Springs, Texas. They did this. This is, and in Sulphur Springs, they have them right in their downtown plaza area. This is a a little restroom. It's not much bigger than a telephone booth. It's glass all the way around, so you can see the reflection of buildings on it. This is it from the outside. This is it from the inside. It's one-way glass.
Oh, that's hilarious.
How many of you would have the courage to actually use that restroom? And by the way, in Sulphur Springs, their downtown is 3 miles off the interstate, and they get hundreds of thousands of visitors a year just to see those. So sometimes your restrooms can be a tourist attraction all by themselves. I mean, look what they did at this men's room.
Oh my gosh.
That's my potty humor for the day. I promise I'm done. But here's the other deal. You want to make sure that none of your merchants ever do that. No public restrooms. Restrooms for customers only. You know what that says to them? Go away. You know what? McDonald's has a policy of never doing that in their stores. But you know what? 80% of the people that walk into McDonald's and use the restroom buy something. Half out of impulse. While we're here, let's get something to eat, something to drink. The other half out of guilt. They call it guilt sales. We use the restroom, we better buy something. It works. You know, you should do what this do. This is in Woodford, Rhode Island. Isn't that cute? And there's a little sign right on the door. And it says, public restrooms will look in behind it. Never say no. Tell me where I could go. There's my poem. That's the extent of my poetry writing. They attract more than flies, put them where people spend money. Restaurants should always be in the heart, in the middle of the downtown, because here's the scoop. Once people get out of their cars, you have a 4 times greater chance of getting them to spend money. So they get out, go to the restroom, and they say, oh, while we're here, let's walk into that shop, let's walk into there. They can be an economic development tool. And by the way, you never want to see that in downtown Kanab. I guess I wasn't quite done with the potty humor. You know, and by the way, restrooms are a great place for visitor information. But after all, when you're at home, where do you do most of your reading? And so that is the power of turning restrooms into visitor information, like they did right here. It works. And then number 11 is development of program gathering places. Next to critical mass, this is the most expensive one. Because wherever people are, retailers will follow. So here's what you need to do. I know you have about 5,000 people live in Kanab. But you know what? If you take the millions of people that are cruising through Kanab, I wonder what your average daily population really is. I'll bet it's pretty good. And I'm just going to say, what if it's 10,000? Just, cruising through, if we can get them to stop. By the way, number one, you've got to get them to stop. If you can get people to spend 2 hours, spending doubles. If you can get them to spend the night, it quadruples. Overnight visitors should be 4 times more than day visitors. So I'm going to show you an example. This is Main Street Square, Rapid City. Rapid City is much like Kanab. I called Rapid City the hole in the middle of the donut. Because 4 million people a year go to Rapid City, they stay in a hotel, they get up in the morning, and they leave. They go to Mount Rushmore. They go to Crazy Horse Memorial. They go to Sturgis, the largest motorcycle rally in the world. They go to the historic town of Deadwood. They go to Badlands National Park. They will go to Custer State Park, where Kevin Costner filmed Dancing with Wolves. They'll go to Reptile Gardens and all those things. Does it sound familiar? Just different names here. Then they come back, and nobody was in downtown, and downtown was dead. And they didn't know what to do, and I said, you know what, get that. An old Sears building with pigeons living in it, and a 60-space parking lot right in the middle of your downtown. I want you to turn this parking lot into a plaza. And the plaza must be programmed. Here's the deal. If we can get your 5,000 residents in downtown, if we can get 1,000 of your local residents in downtown 250 days a year, you're going to have no vacancies, you're going to have a vibrant downtown, and Kanab will be a draw all by itself. You know what? If there was ever a major disaster and they had to close these national parks, what would happen to you as a town? Yeah. So, that's before, there it is before, there it is after. They did it. They built Main Street Square. It is, by the way, a guy bought that Sears building and filled it full of restaurants and retail shops. Then they started hosting events there. Car shows started coming. Motorcycle shows started coming. Quilt guilds started coming. All of a sudden, because you had Main Street Square, people from outside wanted to host their events in Rapid City. And this is it. Look at, they put a little splash pad there. That splash pad operates 120 days a year. That's 120 days of activities. And this is kind of what it looks like. They got a stage right there. They got entertainment on the stage. You got outdoor cafes. In the summer, they've got this nice lawn area. There's that little splash pad back there. And they have a lot of vacancies here. There's no vacancies now. As a matter of fact, there's a waiting list to get retail space downtown. And so they did this. They put it together. This is what it looks like in the summer. And guess what? This is what it looks like in the winter. 8,000 square feet ice rink. That's bigger than Rockefeller Center. And guess what? Rapid City makes $130,000 a year just renting ice skates. And they have to dole them out because it's so busy. So if you had a program plaza in the middle of downtown Kanab, and you had a water feature in there, splash pad in there, 120 days a year, you had ice in there 120 days a year, and you know what? Yes, they cool this down. They're cooler than, so it is refrigerated. And you know what that runs 120 days? That's 240 days worth of activities. And the kids are there. It changed everything in Rapid City. And it goes every night until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Even the splash pad has lights and music at night. And you know what? Look what somebody wrote. Look at this. Is Monday, movie night on the square on Monday nights. Average attendance is 3,500. Movie night, Main Street Square in Rapid City. I grew up in Rapid City. It was never as cool as it is now. Within 2 years, the average age of a person buying a home in Rapid City dropped by 12 years because of a plaza, a programmed plaza. That's one of the top priorities you need to do, and it needs to be, and plazas must be monetized. That means they need to be right in the middle of downtown where they're fronted with restaurants and retail shops. Then here's the other one. Street trees, every 30 feet. By the way, street trees have been proven to increase retail sales and services by an average of 18%. Yet merchants complain they're going to block my signs. Cities complain we're going to have leaves in the storm sewers. I mean, I can hear the list of arguments now. So Keep America Beautiful Network did a cool thing. They went and surveyed. They had 4 towns without street trees in one block. And then they compared the retail sales in that block to the rest of the downtown for a year. And the average increase in retail sales in these blocks of street trees was 18% higher than the rest of downtown. The only difference was the street trees. Number 12, creation of good community gateways. So look at this. This is in Southern California. It's not Palm Springs. Does it look like a nice place to go? Look, okay, you're sure to be quiet.
Looks awesome.
Okay, there you go, see? And this, by the way, I took these in January. So this is it. There's one of their golf courses there. This is their park. I took this early on the morning. That's why there's not a bunch of people in there. I mean, this is even, they have these tennis camps there because in the winter it's kind of like St. George in a way. And then, they've got, this is their public restrooms. Does it look like a nice place? Yeah? Well, you don't see that when you come in. You see the signs that say, "Welcome to Borrego Springs." If you saw that sign, what would you do?
Drive.
Keep right on driving, right? So, I told him, I said, you'd be better off with no signs than no signs. And that's why Rotary kicked me out of the club. No, I'm just kidding. But they called me up a few weeks later and said, Roger, it kind of hurt our feelings what you said about our gateway signs downtown. And, we're just volunteers trying to do something nice. I said, you got to have somebody that's a landscape architect. I mean, your high school shop can probably do better than that. They said, well, no, Roger, you were really right. Even though it hurt our feelings, you were right. We can't wait for you to come back so we can show you the new signs we put up. Now, why Why is it when somebody builds a residential subdivision, they would spend $500,000 like this on a gateway, on an entry? Why would they do that? And by the way, how many of you think and say, oh, that must be a trailer park? None of you, right?
Right.
Because you already made a judgment by that. And so look at this. It says an increased perceived value. You know that must be a pretty high-end residential subdivision. And by the way, it creates pride of ownership. When you drive home every night, you go, wow, I live here. And you know what? It gets your attention, doesn't it? And you know what else? It says something about the community. You knew there was no motor homes back there, or mobile homes. And it sells a real estate factor and an increased value, and every single one of these applies to you. So I saw a nice gateway sign down, I think it's by the airport, am I right? But you know what that should say? It should say, welcome to Kanab, downtown ahead a mile. You know what that tells us? Don't judge us yet, you still got a mile to go. I don't know why we are, as like communities, we're like a pack of dogs, we have to go out and mark our territories with signs. Don't put your signs at the city limits, put them where you make the first best impression. Because my first impression driving into Kanab was, really? And then it got better. But I was, I wonder how many people come in and go, whoa, we better get through this town. And that's what you don't want to do. Rarely is that at the city limits. Use how we direct people to your downtown. Because the last thing you want to do is what York, Pennsylvania did. Welcome to historic York. Do not enter. Great. Number 13. Design, fabrication, installation of wayfinding system. This should be one of your top priorities. You have millions of visitors here. You have some, I was going through one of your video on the tourism website, and you listen, we do Coral Pink Sands and Zion and Rice and Best Friends, and your list was like 20 things. Now that I'm here in Kanab, how the heck do I find them? That's wayfinding. Because signs like this are not very helpful. Okay, some of you are a little slow on that. And signs should always be decorative. And never more than 5 items on the sign. These here, this is Appleton, Wisconsin right here. And these signs work good in the winter. They have an aqueous coating, so ice won't stick on them, graffiti won't stick on them. They're on existing power poles. They're like $700 a piece. And so, look at this. It is a priority. And by the way, every single city that's implemented a wayfinding system has seen their retail sales and services increase. And usually it's by at least 15%. Because I didn't see any signs that said downtown, I almost said Moab. I didn't see any signs that said downtown Kanab ahead 1 mile. Or any signs to the airport. I didn't see signs that really anything, except when we're out on the highway. What UDOT tells us where your attractions are. You have more signs telling you how to leave Kanab than you do to get here. And it is true. Hire professionals. It's not a public works project. And so that's what you should do. These are like $1,500 a piece. That's North Adams, Massachusetts, a down your size. Never more than 5 items on the sign. That's Modesto, California. That's Woodlands, Texas. I love that sign. That'd be a good fit for you, something like that. It's earthy. It fits kind of into the landscape. Very nicely done. And then you need pedestrian wayfindings. You know what? I wonder how many people come into downtown Kanab and don't know that you have anything on your side streets. Which you do. And so you need your pedestrian wayfinding. Think like Disney. They make it easy for people to find their way around. You should have pedestrian wayfinding. Once we're downtown, how to find stuff. What is there to do? Where are the things that are off the main thread? If I shake this a lot, you're going to get seasick, won't you? And so this is all pedestrian wayfinding. And look at this. It plays a role in your branding efforts. It's obvious what you're about. It's a major component in your marketing efforts. It reinforces a positive experience. Look at all these are reasons why you should be doing this. I mean, look at that, it builds community pride. And by the way, it educates your local. I wonder how many visitors come into Kanab, walk into a retail shop and say, what's there to do around here? Then they'll say, oh, there's nothing in Kanab, it's all out there. Now, I didn't experience that, but I experienced it a lot. And this educates your locals about what you got as well as your visitors. And then number 14, a good first impression, and this is downtown gateways. When we arrive in downtown, you should have, it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't have to span the street. It could just be pillars or something that just says, welcome to downtown Kanab. You've arrived. And that slows people down. And it can be just these on corner streets. This is in Woodlands, Texas. They just have them on opposite corners. You can spend $1 million like they do on Lodi, but you don't have to. You can spend $100,000 like they did here in Alberta, this little town, Fort McLeod. And there you go. They create a sense of place in downtown partnerships. I mean, this is Chula Vista, California. When they did this, all of a sudden the merchants started working together. They started being partners because they were part of the same district. And you know, you don't have to spend the big bucks. This is street printing. You know what's really cool about this? These are not pavers. They are embossed down into the asphalt. It's not paint. So you can do tire chains over these. And see the guys doing that side street? They just finished this side. This is like $6 a square foot. You know what you could have these piece? These could be, if your brand was about best friends, you could have animal tracks as your crosswalks. If you're about music, you could have musical notes. You could have whatever design you want, and it creates great gateways. And by the way, crosswalks are important because we want the pedestrian experience. You know, so whatever you want, whatever design you want. And by the way, that whole list you saw, and I know I'm going through this fast, but I just want you to get a taste of what it takes. And then I'm going to tell you a couple other things that I want you to think about in Kanab. So now, here's part 3. This is what you as downtown merchants can do. Number 15. This is the rule of blade signs. These are signs, when we walk or drive downtown Kanab, or drive down the street, we are not going to be looking to see what you have up on your facade. We see signs that are perpendicular to us, just like that. And by the way, they in this town, which is Leavenworth, Washington, chocolate, collectibles, trains, restaurant, you know instantly what they're selling. And you need blade signs. Every successful tourism-oriented town has blade signs that I have seen, including Park City. And look at that, that's in Nantucket. And notice they're all consistent in height, but they don't all have to be cookie-cutter design. There it is, Nantucket again. Here it is in Carmel, California. I mean, this is Valparaiso, Indiana, which is a little bigger scale. This is another great town, Canmore, Alberta. Look at all those cool signs. These are the rule of blade signs. And by the way, I've heard, well, we can't do those because of wind loads. I've had cities say we have ordinances that don't allow them. Change the ordinance. And in Lethbridge, Alberta, these are built to 100-mile-an-hour wind loads. And by the way, they just put this one in, and then they're going to put the next one in and the next one, so they can change these out, but the fixtures never change. And there's your general rules. No lower than 7 feet, no higher than 9 feet, no wider than 42 inches, you know, whatever you want to set up. That's what you need to do with blade signs. But signage says so much about you. For instance, I saw some signs coming in today that and you know, I was sitting with Vicki in the van, and I said, I don't think I'd stay there. And she goes, no, it's really cool. And I can't remember which motel it was, one of the ones that, the sign still looks like 1950s.
Quail Lodge.
Quail Lodge. When I drove by Quail Lodge, I go, I wouldn't stay there. But you know what? I made a false assumption because she said it's really cool because I judged it by the signs. That's what we do as visitors. Signage says a lot about you. How many of you would like to play the Jackpot Golf Course in Jackpot, Nevada? How much would you pay? $100. Anybody? $100. 18 old. 50. 10. How much would I have to pay you to go play this course? Well, you know what? This is the clubhouse. And this is the sign at the golf course. I said, why isn't that sign down the highway? I said, Roger, one of our high school students painted that billboard in the 1970s and his parents still live here. And every year the revenues go down and down and down. Because you know what? Signing says a lot about you. Just kidding. Well, actually, it might be this is in Nevada. And so, that is the power of signage. Then, number 16, sidewalk and outdoor cafe dining is huge. You know, doing these kinds of things is just amazing what you can do. You know, whether you create these little trellises and these kinds of things like this, even things like this, and it doesn't all have to fit the same. You know, I do this in Salem, Massachusetts in a march. These are all silk. And you know another thing, you know one of the first things I would do in Kanab if I was you? I'm about ready to start a firestorm. I would narrow the highway down to 2 lanes.
Yes.
Now, let me do my little political speech here for a second. Utah Department of Transportation, like all 50 states, has 2 primary functions: public safety and moving traffic. But you know what? We've worked in Caltrans in California, in New Hampshire and other states, and they added a third one called economic development. Guess what? Congestion is a downtown's best friend. The slower they go, the more they're going to spend. And I got to tell you, we want intimate, remember what I said, shopping and dining in a pedestrian-friendly, intimate setting. We don't want a 2-lane freeway with semis and stuff cruising right next to our sidewalk cafe. Widen the sidewalks and narrow the streets. You know what else I would do? You could do what they do up in Nelson, British Columbia. I took this in October. They're getting ready to take them down there in the Kootenai Rockies. And you know what they do is they allow every restaurant to use 1 or 2 parking spaces and have the pedestrians walk through here, and they allow them to do these decks out there for outdoor during the summer. They're doing it in Park City. We got them to do it there. And theirs steep, but we got them to do it. And it works. Number 1, these slow traffic down. You know, there it is. So they were just taking it down when I got there. But this is Wolfville, Nova Scotia. In this one, they allow people to dine on the sidewalk and they route the pedestrians around. And then in the winter, they put them away because of snow removal. Those are the kinds of things that slow traffic and allow for a better, longer experience. You know, isn't that cool? And it's easy. If I go back, you can see where people enter, and it's all handicap accessible. Now, if you ever have a merchant, you say, we want to do that, and some merchant says, if you take away the parking, you're going to kill my business. Here's your shot back. Are you telling me your business isn't worth walking a block for? You know, when I went back to Rapid City after the Main Street Square, I was supposed to meet them for lunch. I was 20 minutes late because I had to park 3 blocks away. And there are so many pedestrians everywhere. And you know what they said? So glad you're late. What a nice problem to have. That's what we need to do. You know, this is Canmore, Alberta. They did these, sometimes only 3 or 4 tables. And by the way, when people eat ice cream there, their sales just skyrocket. Because what they do is they see the people eating ice cream before they even notice the sign. So it doesn't have to be big, it has to be simple. Canmore's a population of 10,000, it's near Banff National Park. And by the way, guess what? It's as big an attraction as Banff. That's the goal for Kanab. You know, and so this is Barrie, Ontario, this is what they did there. And so this is brand new, they put this up. And here you can see where people gather around. I took it early in the morning, it wasn't even open yet. And they added beautification to it. Sidewalk cafes. Number 17, retail beautification. Nothing sells like beautification. I mean, this is Kanab Beach, Oregon, a population of 2,500. It's one of the most beautiful towns in all of Oregon, and it's also one of the most visited. You know, even the retail signage, this is in Sisters, Oregon, it looks like that. Isn't that cool? These are little tiny towns. Beautification is incredible. I mean, and that includes extending window displays to exterior spaces. If the city doesn't allow it, change the ordinance. Merchants should always get 18 to 24 inches right along their building to extend window displays to exterior spaces. This does not mean putting folding tables out there and piling stuff on it. That makes you look like a second-class garage sale house. Because you wouldn't put a clothes rack in your window, would you? Then you don't put it outside. That's what we're talking about. doing these kinds of things. You know, in Fredericksburg, Texas, they all got together and bought, and by the way, we believe that city should be charged with curbside beautification. Merchants and property owners should be facade side beautification. Because I'm going to give you another statistic here. This town, they all got together, pieced a bunch of money, and went out and just bought a whole bunch of surplus lots, planted them all downtown, and you know what they did? They had the high school students all plant them, and guess what? There's no vandalism, because kids protect things they take ownership of. I mean, does that make you want to go on blatant science beautification? Here's another statistic. 70% of first-time sales comes from curb appeal. Every single person in this room, I'm sure, has traveled. And I'll bet you every single person has said these exact words. That looks like a nice place to eat. That's how we judge the book by the cover. First-time sales, 70% of the time come from curb appeal. That looks like a nice place to eat. That looks like a nice place to stop. That looks like a really cool shop. Let's go in. They're making those judgments. This is in Neenah, Wisconsin, population of 5,000. Before, after, retail sales were up by 35%. Once again, before, after. No changes, just that, 35%. And then, you know what? Let me hear it.
You're right.
The women are clapping, the guys are going. Tell us something we didn't already know. Usually there's a guy in the audience who goes, that's all. I want you to see the next picture. This was not posed. What do you see?
There's one woman outside.
2 words, big benches. In your downtown, you should have 150 benches. And they do not need to be concrete, they need to be benches people would sit in. And you know what? All benches should be at the facade facing out, flanked with pots and planters or extensions of window displays. Always at the facade facing out, because we want to sit there, we want to watch traffic, we want to watch people on the sidewalk. And by the way, think about this. Why do you think people put front porch swings and rocking chairs on their front porches? They may never sit on them. You know what it does? It makes your home feel welcoming. It applies to businesses. It's part of beautification. You know, let the guys sit while the women do the shopping. You know, that one shop, you know the one shop I showed you in Wickford, Rhode Island that said restrooms are located by Works Pharmacy? There was another sign next to the door, and it said this: your husband called, he said to spend whatever you want. They got it. Number 18, activities and entertainment bring downtown to life. In Kanab Beach, Oregon, they have a budget of $10,000 a year, and they pay entertainers $35 on Fridays, Saturdays, and even Sundays until like 2 in the afternoon. They would bet, like, he paid $35, plus he paid tips, this magician. Bring downtown to life. Guitars. It doesn't even have to be amplified music. You should have 3 or 4 places downtown. If you want to attract millennials, your youth, when your youth graduate from high school, how many of them are saying, as soon as I graduate, I blow this town? You know, and what you want to do, and I understand your school enrollment's dropping. You know what? If you want millennials and their kids to come back here, you better start doing this kind of stuff. This is Nelson, British Columbia in January. It was below freezing and they're still out there. I mean, this is in Greenville. So notice all of these are unamplified music. Work with colleges, universities. And they put money off the tips. And if you have to get started by paying them something, great. So there it is. Do that. This guy's playing it's called a what? A hammered dulcimer. That's the instrument he's playing. And you know, he gets a lot of tips because people stop and say, what is it? And then they feel obligated. It works. And then number 19, give downtown a name. Don't just say downtown Kanab. You know, this is the Pearl District in Portland. I mean, this is Bricktown in Oklahoma City. Vancouver has Gastown. Seattle has Pioneer Square. San Diego, Gaslamp Quarter. Give your downtown a name. Give it a cool name. Because you know what? Once you do that, you know what, if you go to New Orleans and you see the French Quarter, that has much more appeal than just downtown New Orleans. You know, and so it's doing these kinds of things. Give it a name, because when you give it a name, it makes it a destination, not just a designation. Get the difference? So whatever you want to call it. And then finally, number 20, experiential marketing. You know, on all your pole banners, we don't need historic building stuff. We want to sell a feeling. Like they did in Little Allegheny, New York with a Victorian feel. You want to sell a feeling more than you want to sell infrastructure. So all these things that you just saw should be driven by your merchants in your downtown. And by the way, a lot of these are all cross-pollinated. And so all of these things are so important. And you know, I want to reiterate this one. 7-8-7 rule. 70% of first-time sales come from curb appeal. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending, and they want to be in places they feel safe, comfortable, and welcome. And then 70% of retail spending takes place after 6 p.m. If you solve those three things, there's no reason why Kanab can't be the destination. And so, we even have videos that show you how they say, and you have free access to these. We have a video on all 20 of these. And courtesy of the state, you have free access. And so, we can do that. And by the way, this rivers are changing. I never said it would be easy. As you can see in this picture. So, I want to go back to Jackson Hole. You know what my job was? This is in the early 80s. They said, we need you to resurrect our downtown. We need you to get it going. My job was to recruit merchants around downtown. And I'll do this pretty quickly because I know I'm going over my time. So you know what I did? We made a list of all the property owners around the square. And I went to them one-on-one. I didn't care where they lived, in Bozeman, Montana, in Kalispell, in Salt Lake City, in Idaho Falls, wherever they lived. I would go to Los Angeles and I'd say, when your lease expires with that laundromat, I don't want you to renew the lease. But I want you to invest in your building so that it would be good for a gallery. Because we're going to go with a Western arts brand, the home of Western art, Western living. And I want you to lease it to that gallery for half price. They were getting $16 a square foot per year, so what's that, $1.25 a month per square foot? They said, 2/3 of them said, what? You want me to kick out my tenant who always pays his or her rent? You want me to put money in my building so I can lease it out to some unproven mom-and-pop gallery for half price? I said, exactly. And 2/3 of them said, buy me out, we can do whatever you want. But 1/3 said, I see where you're going. 1/3 said, we'll do it. And then I helped to recruit the businesses. In your downtown, you should have 2 or 3 outfitters. I'd love to see kayaks and canoes leaning up against there. You need to have a shop that sells binoculars for all the things you have here. You need to have really cool, you can make this downtown so amazing. So we did that. So I orchestrated most of this business mix. And it took 3 years to do it, and we got Teton Clothing Company, Rain Dance Gallery. It was all home of Western art, Western living. We made a list, and we went out and recruited the businesses we wanted around the square. And you know what happened? And this is it afterwards. And you know what? It is the home of Western living. There are now 85 galleries and 30 Western living shops in their downtown. They are pulling people from around the world. And they have the 4th largest arts community in the entire United States. Next to New York City, Carmel, California, and Santa Fe, New Mexico, Native American art. Number 4, a town of 12,000. And you know what? They're way more difficult to get to than you are. And more than 4 million visitors annually. And let me tell you something. In West Yellowstone, Montana, there is a National Parks Visitor Information Center and the West Yellowstone Visitor Information. You know what the most asked question is? Which is the quickest way to get to Jackson Hole? And I said, we'll go down Highway 26. In Idaho, go through Rexburg, then jump over the Teton Pass, you know, where Driggs and those areas are, and you'll be in Jackson Hole. Well, is there a way we could go and get a picture taken of Old Faithful and then get down there? Guess what? Within 10 years, Jackson, Wyoming was a bigger attraction than both Yellowstone National Park and Grand Teton National Park. It is a bigger attraction than 2 national parks. Wouldn't it be cool if Kanab was the draw, and while you were here, you would go to Bryce and Coral Sands and Vermilion Cliffs if you could get a ticket, and you know, on and on. Wouldn't that be cool? You'd have jobs, you'd have the youth here. And that's what you need to do. That's the power. We had the same conversation in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. They're the entrance to the Smoky Mountains National Park, which is the most visited park in the United States, 13 million visitors. And if that park was ever closed, they'd be dead in a year. But we made them, we did this Tennessee arts community, an 8-mile arts trail, and it is working. So, let me just share with you in closing some of the words of wisdom I've seen in downtowns. It's amazing what you'll see. Yeah, that's one. And then there's also this one here that I saw once. I got to take out of that one. Okay, and here's another one here. No, we do not have Wi-Fi. Talk to each other. Good word of wisdom. And then I love this one. That's for us poor baby boomers. Then there was this one on a restaurant, but it's kind of hard to read. It says, men to the left because women are always right. Go, girl. And then, you know, here you go, there's a good one there. Teach your kids about taxes, eat 30% of their ice cream. And finally, here's one that really breaks the rules of hospitality. There it is. You know, in closing, you know, here's the deal. You know what? The state of Utah is spending millions of dollars to promote the Mighty Five. And you know what? That comes with a lot of grief in their office. But what about us in Ogden? You know? I mean, you know what I mean? They're promoting what's around you and it's working. And you have an opportunity, and I'm not saying you need to overcrowd Kanab, but boy, if you could have Kanab be as big a draw, or as one of the draws, not only are we going to see Zion and all these other things, not only go up restaurants, we want to spend some time in downtown because they have these cool fire pits all the way downtown. We're telling stories there. And we have downtown, we got these great outfitters and restaurants and sidewalk cafes and a plaza that has ice in the winter. You know, when you provide things for us, as visitors, we spend the night where there's things to do after 6 o'clock. If you can do that, you will be the most amazing destination. You know what? You can blow away Park City.
Woo!
You could! You have the potential. Look what's around you. Park City is a street that's pretty steep. It's not that navigable. Look what you got. I mean, the potential of Kanab is absolutely world class. Don't let Moab pass you up. No offense to Moab, it's a great place. Or St. George. You have just as much potential, if not more, than those places. Look what's around you. And that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for coming. Thank you very much.
Roger, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I want to ask you something.
Sure.
Red Lodge, Montana.
Yes, know it well.
It has your fingerprints all over it.
Oh, yeah. We've worked in Red Lodge. We worked in that whole area. Kalispell,
I mean, my wife
that
and I
whole...
just came back from a motorcycle trip, and we
Okay.
came through Red Lodge, and
Yep.
we just said to each other, we must stop
Yeah.
here. because it had that message and that
It's
invitation.
very intimate, narrow streets,
Small,
wider
very much
sidewalks,
like Kanab.
orchestrated business mix. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The county supervisor there's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, they
So
did good.
you know, and so yeah,
It's a shining example to you.
yeah, and they're one of our 400 towns.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, and you have that potential.
Well, do you have some specific recommendations?
I
for
won't
Kanab?
yet. We're going to talk this afternoon.
Okay.
I mean, one of them I said, start working on narrowing the streets. I know that's a
Okay.
huge project, multi-years, but start the
You don't
process.
get that much traffic, really.
Well, and if you narrow the streets, it allows you to widen your sidewalks, slow the
We need a
traffic
bicycle
down.
lane, too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is a fit, young. We want this to be fit, young, energetic community. So absolutely, you need bike lanes. You need wider sidewalks. You need sidewalk cafes, and you need to narrow the streets down so people aren't just blowing through Kanab.
Yeah.
And you'll
Yeah,
see
we've
your
been-
retail sales and everything increase
We've been a pass-through
dramatically.
community far too long.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I said don't be a gateway anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you.